In this episode of An American Entrepreneur, we're going to meet a gentleman that somewhat just recently started his own business. Actually, about 7 months ago. His business is Mobile Auto Mechanic Service, and he's located here in Dallas, Texas. And he does service the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Now, since he doesn't have a shop, we shot this video outside at a park. So there's a lot of jet noise and kids in the background playing. But I really think he's got a lot to share. So join me. I really think you'll enjoy it. All right, so introduce yourself.
My name is Christopher Thomas, and I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
That's where I'm from. Actually, Shreveport, but
Okay.
Louisiana.
Right.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your business here.
Okay, so I started this business right at 7 months ago, and I had a shop before in Baton Rouge, and I decided to move here because they said the business was booming, people were moving here, and when I got here, I decided to look into the mobile mechanic industry. So I worked for one company for a week when I first got here. And I worked for a different company for one day. And during this time span, I was actually doing advertisements and promoting, my own brand, my own company. And I just started to do it like a little bit here and there, and I didn't realize, how good it would become. And I decided to go full time. It was a scary type of deal, but I did it, and I'm so glad that I did.
Well, how long have you been working on cars?
Me, myself, I've been working on cars a little over 26 years. So
Okay.
I have two uncles that fix cars. One went to school and the other one did it. So
Okay.
I have the best of both worlds.
Well, what made you decide to go the entrepreneurial route?
I decided to go the entrepreneurial route because I noticed that I would have more time for myself, flexibility. I can set and schedule my hours and my times, and it will enable me to have more time to be with my family,
Right.
as well as take care of responsibilities. So
Well, how does a mobile mechanic start out? What are the things you need to have in place? I guess besides your tools and transportation, do you have to have special licenses here in Texas?
there is like dealing with the Secretary of State. There's a permit that's needed
To be
here.
a mechanic?
Not to be a mechanic, but to actually do business in the state of Texas.
Okay, but no special mechanic licenses.
No, that the only specialty, like for instance, if you wanted to do HVAC work, you need to have HVAC certification, which is something I have. They say I'm probably one of two only mobile mechanics with HVAC certification
Right.
here in the whole area.
Okay, all Dallas? you're
All
saying?
of Dallas, yes.
So a lot of them are doing it without that certification,
Exactly.
apparently.
Now, not only that, but if you're going to do oil changes, there is something separate inside of with the sales tax with the state. There's a separate tax that you need to pay for it, but you have to be able to dispose of it properly, which means you have to have the correct bins, and you need to dispose of it properly. There's extra fees that you pay for it.
Right.
So I opted not to have that.
What kind of work do you normally do? Do you do pretty much just anything? Can you do an engine swap or transmission work? Or tell us a little bit about the types of work you do and the types of work you don't do.
Okay, well, I pretty much do everything. Like, I don't turn down a job unless I absolutely either don't have the tools, which I have a very, very unlimited source of tools, like my own tools, and I don't turn down any work. So I can do anything from oil changes to brakes to front end, drivability. My specialty is diagnostics, including electrical, because a lot of people, they stray away from that. And throughout my career, I've been able to kind of hone in on it, because these type of areas dealing with electrical and diagnostics, a lot of people stay away from it because they become complicated.
Right.
You know, and but I do engine swaps, I do transmission swaps, I do engine rebuilds, I do timing chains, timing belts, water pumps, alternators, radiators, you name it. The only two things that I can't do is rebuild a transmission, because there's like over 100 something parts inside of a transmission.
But you can take it out and take it to get rebuilt and reinstall it.
Exactly.
Right.
That, and I don't do welding, you know,
Okay.
because you need acetylene tanks and stuff
Right.
like that. And I won't have room in this vehicle here to do it.
Right.
So,
Well, as far as the mobile mechanic business, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a mobile mechanic versus going to a shop?
okay, I'm gonna talk about the disadvantages. Is the wear and tear on the vehicle. Because as big as that is, in that is Metroplex and the area surrounding it, you might get a call that's in this area, but then your next appointment might be 45 minutes away. And so you can't book over 4 or 5 appointments a day unless they're quick. But even if they were quick, you're traveling 30 to 50 minutes, sometimes an hour, hour and a half. And that's not even including fighting the traffic.
Right.
You know, so that's some of the disadvantages of it. But to quell that disadvantage, you need to have a good running vehicle. You need to have regular maintenance on your vehicle. You know, in order to do that, you got to make time to take off in order to do that. You know, to make sure it's in good running conditions and operable, because people here, the way they drive here is not friendly all the time, you know. So you need a vehicle that can really keep up with the moving of the traffic. So that's some of the disadvantages of it that I see personally. The advantages is you're able to make your own schedule. You're able to pull up on a customer, no matter where they are. They can be at home, they can be at work, they can be visiting a friend's house, they can be on the side of the road. Now, I'm going to finish, but as a side note, a lot of mobile mechanics don't know this. And this has come from studying the laws with doing like mobile mechanic work. Let's say a vehicle is down on like the side of the road of somebody's house or apartment or whatever. You have 72 hours. If a vehicle is impaled, that vehicle can be impaled and you can work on that vehicle. You have 72 hours to get that vehicle moved out of that spot. Now, mind you, it has to be in a safe location where, you know, nobody can get hurt or injured or something like that. And to carry on with the advantages of it is, you know, you're able to, you know, you can take breaks when you want. You know, you can schedule your appointments close or far out if you choose.
Right. And I would suppose too, for someone that's got a car that's broke down, you can definitely save on the expense of getting a tow truck, because a tow truck's not going to get you anywhere as far as getting your car fixed. That's just a sunk cost that's not getting you anywhere. But you can go where they're at.
Exactly.
If their car's broke down in a driveway or at a store somewhere.
Or even if it's on the highway, like, you know how sometimes they have those little pockets of little rest spots on the highway? You can pull it off and actually fix it right there. Another advantage is, let's say you broke down somewhere, you might be visiting your cousin, and your car is broke to the point where you don't have a ride to the parts store, or maybe your cousin can't even take you. I would actually get the customer, take them to the parts store, or get the approval, get the parts for them, bring it back and install it. You know, it puts less pressure on the customer and they really love it.
Right.
So those are some advantages for the customer.
But do you buy your parts wholesale and mark them up whenever you install them for your customers?
It depends on the part. It depends on the place that I purchased the part from. Now, there's some perks to actually owning like your own mobile mechanic business legitimately, is that I have accounts with the parts store. So all the time, I don't need money up front.
Right.
I can make a phone call and say, hey, I got a 1993 this such and such car, and I can order the parts. They'll either have them on hold for me so I can pick them up, or they will deliver them to me. If there's a location that's within 10 to 15 miles of where I am, they will actually bring me the parts.
Oh, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's just like right now where we are. If I called and had to get parts delivered, if there's one within 10 to 15 miles, they would actually bring the parts here to me.
All right, that's really cool. Well, I know they deliver to a shop, so why wouldn't they deliver to a mobile mechanic?
Exactly.
You know. Well, I would think that a lot of mobile mechanics, maybe I shouldn't say a lot, but I do know that it's got a lot of people in this business that are dishonest. They'll go out, fix someone's car, but not fix it right. And when people are calling them back to say, hey, you didn't fix it right, they just never answer and they just ignore them. Is that very common in this mobile mechanic business? And also, do you warrant your work?
When I first started doing mobile mechanic here in the Dallas, Texas area and surrounding, every customer that I talk to, and I still get the same response now today with new customers, they tell me, I've called this company or so-and-so mobile mechanic. They came out here. Sometimes they did a good job. Most times they did not. And when they was trying to reach back out to them to get them back out there, they would never get an answer. So I get that from customers all the time. Now, I always tell the customer, I say, listen, I say, you can choose any mobile mechanic you want. I say, but if they don't have a social media presence, if they don't have an internet presence, then they're not really serious about their business and
Right.
They have nothing to lose.
Right.
You want to deal with somebody that has some type of reputation.
Right.
That way, they have something to lose. I can find this guy on the internet, or if they call my company, I always answer the phone. If I'm not able to answer it, I have 2 secretaries that can answer the phone.
Right.
Because I have a phone switchboard, and when I'm not able to take a call, they can catch it. If anybody misses a call, you can leave a message. We always return your call, or we'll send you a message.
Right. I guess the thing too about you is with the website and all that, people can leave reviews.
Exactly.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
You can't take that
But
back.
if you don't have that, then people don't know this guy, he's horrible.
Exactly.
They just think, okay.
I've seen some people that had a couple of Facebook pages, and I've seen people come on there and comment, and they just went away. They kind of like disappeared.
Right.
So it really hurts your business. It's really, really hurts your business. Now, as far as warranty, any part that I purchase for the customer through my company is warranty. Whatever warranty the part company
Right.
gives, or wherever I buy the part or transmission or engine from, whatever warranty that company gives, I match the warranty. So you get a parts and a labor warranty as well. Okay. That doesn't apply to all parts, or either, let's say, like
electronic parts maybe.
Right. Or if I put an engine in your car and you fail to do the maintenance on it.
Right.
I've had people where they try to say, oh, I did the maintenance on it, but having proper tools, I got tools that I can actually go in there and read a history of what's been done to the car.
Right.
Not only that, the software that I use, like when I bill out my customers and when I do maintenance and work on their vehicles, it actually goes to the Carfax report. So you're able to have, that history in there as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long does it take to really start building up your business?
It does not take long at all.
Just a lot of it's word of mouth, I guess?
All you need is a few good jobs and to do them correctly. And these people here, this is a big place, but no matter how big it is, they will refer you. I'm talking about they will refer you. I can't tell you how many calls I've had, and they like, hey, so-and-so gave me a number, or so-and-so gave me your card, and man, just word spread. I think word spreads faster than the internet.
So I guess you don't really worry about doing a lot of marketing, advertising, or if you do, what avenues or what social media, or how do you advertise this business?
Okay, so when I first began it, I thought maybe I was going to need a whole bunch of advertising. But I thought in my brain, I say, there are people who specialize in advertising. And I say, hey, maybe I should reach out to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, depends on how successful I wanted my business to be. But I learned that the success of my business depends on the work that I do. And so in doing that, I never had to use a marketing or advertising company because the word of mouth worked.
Right.
So initially, somebody had to give me a chance to work on their vehicle. The vehicles I started working on were the ones that some of the other mobile mechanics maybe have messed up or didn't do a good job. And they didn't want to take it to the shop because they're going to charge them 3 to 4 times the amount.
Yeah, dealerships is
Right,
just
what you're
really
going to pay.
outrageous.
So they would call me over there before I go over there. They say, "Hey, can you do computer programming?" That's another thing I can do. Can you code keys? Can you because the key is not working or something like that. And I went and did those few jobs, not knowing that the people who I did the jobs for, they knew a lot of people.
Right.
And they would just start referring me out. They were like, "Hey, call this guy." And if I'm not able to get to you, I'll tell you, "Hey, I'm booked out till this day." And usually 8 times out of 10, they will prefer to wait.
Really?
Yes, they would prefer to wait because I notice that people want to save money, but when they pay, they want to make sure they pay one time and get the job done correctly.
Right. So when you give someone an estimate, what's that process? If I called you and said, my car won't start and I don't know anything about cars, I can't really tell you what's wrong with it, right? Because I'm not a mechanic. So if someone calls you, how do you give them this estimate? You're, let's say, 10 miles away and they call you. How does the conversation, how do you come about your estimate? Now, do you just have a diagnostics charge?
Well, I do, but in order to help me narrow down exactly what the issue is, and I've actually trained my secretaries in the same process, I do have a process. And, going through a process, it sometimes causes a little mental anguish, with somebody who's looking for a service. But at the same time, it makes me see how serious and important that person is about getting the work done versus I've had people call and they just want me to drop what I'm doing and just shoot on over there like I'm Joe Blow from I don't know, but it doesn't work like that. And so I get them in a process, a professionalism type of process. So I would talk to them to determine if you either need a diagnostic or you know exactly what's going on with your vehicle. Sometimes people know exactly what's going on with their vehicle. They say, "Hey, I need this alternator changed." And I would ask them, I say, "You sure that's what you need?" "Well, they told me," or "I'm sure." When they tell me that, I usually say, "Okay, if I come and change that part, if it doesn't resolve your issue, then I'm not responsible." I say, "Now I can come and do a diagnostic, where we can make sure." And I say, "Then I'll be responsible for that if that doesn't solve your problem." And they say, okay, well, I think I need a diagnostic. And then I tell them the fee for the diagnostics. They say, "I'm cool." So I say, the next step in that process is getting their information. And a lot of people are wary of giving the information for whatever reasons or another. Probably about half of that time, about 5 times out of 10, I have people call back. They always call back, but the hesitancy.
Initially, they don't want to give it out.
Well, the reason being is because they're not sure. They're not sure of who I am. And so I'm guessing that during this time frame, what they do is go and do research.
Right.
And they always call back and they like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get it done." And most of them say, "Well, I checked you out. I wanted to see if you were legit, if this was a real company." And then they give the information, like the email, phone number, year, make of the car. And I like to have that.
The VIN number is one of the most important as well, right?
It's important. It's only important for the
specific parts.
No,
parts.
It's good for parts, but it's good for the identification of the vehicle. I can get that myself when I go to the vehicle.
Oh, right.
I don't want to put that
That's
on
an
the customer.
Right.
They're gonna be like, "Man, it's just too much."
Right.
But you know your name, you know your email, you pretty much know the year, make, and model of your car. You might not know if it's a V6 or a 4-cylinder. I can figure that out when I get there. You know what I'm saying?
You're dealing with people with broken down cars.
Yeah.
They're really angry already.
Exactly.
So you have to really try to calm everything down and just kind of give them some comfort, I guess.
Exactly.
A lot of psychological.
Exactly. But one of those first steps is giving me your email address. When I get that, then I send the estimate there. I have all that information in the paperwork. And when you click that, that says you approved it, and it shows that I sent you the estimate and you contracted the work. You can't say, oh, I didn't approve that,
Right.
And I put that in place because I have encountered, before that was in place, issues like that.
So you do this on your tablet in your vehicle here. You can put all that together, the estimate together, and you shoot it off to them.
Yes.
What kind of program? Is this a special mechanic or mobile mechanic program you use?
It's a conglomeration of different programs.
Right.
I have templates, pre-typed templates that I use, and it's pretty quick for me. I go in there and I use the same process for my secretaries, because you're trying to juggle the phone and keep up with stuff like that. And we use different programs, maybe about 3 or 4 different programs. I use one for my invoicing and my estimates, one for the labor rates. I use one for, checking, comparing prices of parts for different companies, because a lot of people, a lot of these parts are real expensive, and some people just don't have it.
Right.
And I do that. I going back and forth with the different companies to try to find them a good price that's decent.
Right. Whenever you send them that estimate, then you shoot that to them in their email with your tablet in your vehicle here.
Yes, exactly.
And if they approve it, it comes back.
Automatically. Like, soon as they click the button, I automatically see it. I receive it like instantaneously.
So if you give someone an estimate and it's $275, when you finish it, do they ever try to say, would you take $250?
No.
They never do that, right?
They never.
Because this is
they
what
used
you
to try that
to.
before but once I instilled the process with the email address and them confirming it, I never ever have an issue.
But before you did that,
I had that issue. So it's important to have things in place that will limit the back and forth. I just found ways to eliminate these little
misunderstandings and hagglings
exactly.
Right.
And if you're serious about your business, you're going to do stuff like this.
Right.
Now, let me talk about when I first started, I didn't have all the money I needed to get everything that I needed in place. So I actually just started working, and I began to take the money that I would make and put it back into my business.
Right.
I'm probably one out of maybe 10 mechanics. I'm talking about, I don't have to go to the parts store for any specialty tools.
But if you needed to, they rent them out, don't they? I mean, if you needed something, you could. So it's not going to be a hindrance to you. If you didn't have a certain part, you can still do the job. You just have to rent it, maybe, that tool. I'm talking about a certain tool.
There ain't many tools I don't have.
But I'm just saying, if you didn't, if you were just getting started and you didn't have a harmonic balance puller, let's say, if you didn't have that, that's not going to preclude you from doing the job, right? Because you could rent that.
You can rent it.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes. However, let's say if you're near this store doesn't have it. Now they have to contact this store, and then they have to send somebody to get it, and then they have to come back to the store and get, because they're not going to bring it from that store to you. They have to take it back to that store and then bring it to you, or you have to go to that store and get it. Or you can go to that store where they had it at, and get it. It just, having those tools on hand eliminates all that.
Right, saves a lot of time.
Yes.
And of course you're not renting, you own the part.
I own the tools, yeah.
Is there a certain group of types of repairs that are pretty much just the most common?
The most common that I do?
Well, probably just any mobile mechanic. I guess, the car won't start, or a brake job. Is there like 5 or 10 different things that are just the most common?
I can't say that
the
it
whole
is.
gamut.
Because I can never just predict I'm gonna get between this 1 and 10 things. Not for me.
Right.
And the reason being, I don't pick and choose. Now let me tell you why. I've dealt with customers, and I maybe went and did a brake job, and they asked me, "Hey, can you do motor mounts?" I'm like, of course, I'm a mechanic, you know?
Right.
And he's like, well, the other mechanic couldn't do it.
They probably just want to do the simple stuff, right?
Yes, so they're limiting themselves. They're putting themselves in a box.
So they're doing oil changes, brake
Brakes,
jobs,
a little tie
change a
rod, a
battery,
little control
belts.
arm, a belt, something like that, alternator, battery.
right, thermostat.
But you're limiting yourself. So they know not to call these people unless they need these little simple things.
Right,
You know, and that's really limiting, you know.
right.
Yeah.
What's some advice you would give to someone that's wanting to start a mobile mechanic business? Some things that you've learned that you really learned the hard way.
Um
Well, I guess one of them is making them. You shoot that email and they sign it, and that's their
the
agreed
most
price.
important most important thing I would say is having a paper trail. Like, it is very important. I'm talking about all the way from the customer's information to the vehicle, to what was done to the vehicle, when it was done. That's very, very important. Like, it'll cover you. Another thing, let's say like a customer purchases parts through my company. I keep all the receipts for that, because if somebody needs to warranty out a part, you
Right.
know, or if they can't say, hey, you didn't change this out, or I also take pictures. I take video, and some customers, you know, you're not inclined to do business with, but you still do it because they need the service.
Right.
Let me tell you what's so important. I dealt with this customer, man, and this guy, I don't know if he was an ex-football player or something like that. He was some kind of into sports or whatever. I kind of heard that. And man, this guy was one of the rudest customers I ever encountered, but I still did business with him. But I had in the back of my mind, like, I have to document every single thing. So everything I did to that car, so what wound up happening, he bought a part. He said, I need this changed. And I said, okay, and told him, explained it to him. If I come out there and change that part, if it don't resolve the problem, I said, it's not on me. He bought the wrong part. I took everything off, got to where the part was supposed to be, took the part off, matched the parts up. It's the wrong part. I called the customer, I told him, he was like, oh man, you know, he really blew up, you know. Wasn't using nice words or anything,
Right.
you know. And he was like, well, what we gonna do? I say, I'll tell you what. I say, I'll come back out here, and I say, I'll install that part. I say, but I'm only gonna charge you the travel fee. He was like, oh man, he blew up because he didn't want to pay the travel fee. Man, I feel like I shouldn't. I say, sir, I didn't tell you to get that part.
Right.
And he was so irate. I'm talking about he was upset.
He just wouldn't own his own mistake.
He finally, eventually, he had no choice, you know. And he paid me for doing that job. Like, he had to pay me that night, else I was gonna have to, you know, go to court, you know, do what I had to do, you know, for his business. But then he still wound up paying me the travel fee the next day because he knew it was his fault, you know. But I kept a nice, even, professional tone with him.
Right.
You know, and
And he noticed that, I assure you. People will notice.
He was upset, but he still was glad that I still went ahead to deal with him.
Right.
And I knew in my heart he needed his vehicle up and running.
Right.
So that's why I didn't decline the job.
What's a normal trip charge?
A normal trip charge, for me, I charge $30.
Regardless of the service area that you serve.
Now, sometimes I'll waive that fee if you're like in my general area.
Right.
If you're in my
really
general
close
area,
by.
yeah,
Right.
like within 10, 15 miles, I'll waive that fee. Or if I give you an estimate and the job is total anything over $200, I waive the travel fee.
Right.
You know, so.
Okay. So as far as when you fix someone's car, do you casually hang on to their keys till they pay you and then you give them everything, or
Never.
you don't? Okay.
I never do that because
A lot of garages will do that.
I trust
They wait till
I
you
trust
pay
them.
before they give you your keys.
when I'm done, I give them the keys. I say, cool. Sometimes I'll hang around after they got the keys and I'll sit there in front of their house until the process is, but I usually just pull off. If there's an issue, I'll call them the next day or a couple of days later.
The biggest takeaway Chris shared with us is when he talked about proper documentation, because you see, documentation beats conversation any day. I love the way he prepares everything in a document and he emails it out to his customers, and it outlines exactly what he is to repair, the parts, his labor cost, any trip charges, as well as warranty. This way, when there are any misunderstandings, and believe me, in business, there will always be these misunderstandings. But when you keep a good paper trail, all of your documentation, it'll save you in so many ways. And again, this is extremely important. I don't care what kind of business you're in, whether it be professional services or any kind of trades. So thanks again, Chris, for sharing your story. I hope this video added value. I'm Curtis Mohlberg. See you next time, and thanks for watching.